Hey guys, this is Kendall Terry, and this is Animal Function and Structure, Part 2. And when you're looking at organisms in nature, they have to have a way to exchange certain things with the surroundings that they live in. For simple one-celled organisms like this amoeba right here, its simple exchange is just diffusion. It just diffuses molecules that it needs straight into the cell, and it diffuses molecules it doesn't need straight out through the cell membrane. As organisms started to get a little bit more complex, and you can see this complexity in something, for instance, like the Hydra here, it's got two layers of cells, an outside layer and an inside layer. It actually has a mouth part here that comes down that food can be brought into. So it has this internal area and this external layer of cells, and it will diffuse both on the inside and on the outside of the cells, because these two have to be in fluid environments so that it can diffuse what it needs to back and forth. But as organisms evolved in nature to get out of fluid environments and live on land like us, there had to be another way for your cells to get all of the nutrients they need, since they can't just diffuse through some kind of rough exterior that surrounds the organism and keeps it protected. So they've developed some type of body plan. Now this is a very simple, simplified body plan. You have a way to intake food, some system of breaking that food down, and then getting rid of what's left. You have some system of taking in air and letting out carbon dioxide. And you've got some system of getting rid of metabolic waste, and those are things that the cell no longer needs, that it has to get rid of. And then you have to have some sort of transport of these molecules all throughout the body. Now we know that the blood is what does that, being pumped by the heart throughout these systems. And this is what we're going to focus on really over the next couple of units of chapters, is these different processes and how they work together to make that happen. So in complex animals, external cells don't have to be bathed in fluid due to the complex specialized internal systems. Those specialized internal systems are things like the digestive system, the respiratory system, the circulatory system, the excretory system, so on and so forth. Whenever we're regulating that internal environment, we have to be able to survive in a world that changes. And the way your body does that is a process called homeostasis. That's a steady state or an internal balance. I like to think of it as the inside staying the same even though the outside changes. And that is true, although it doesn't hold exactly at one number. That would almost be impossible. It fluctuates. So it's actually a dynamic system. It has a range, and as long as it stays within that range, it's okay. Two processes that help us stay in that range are negative feedback. Negative feedback is the change, as changes happen in the environment, that causes the organism to have to respond to that. If that response causes a counter reaction to occur, then to counteract the change is taking place, then that is negative feedback. So a change happens, your body responds to reverse the effects. For instance, you go outside and it's hot, you start sweating. Okay, your body can't continue to heat up. The stimulus is hot as heat. Your body would continue to heat up. It has to have a way to go the opposite direction of the stimulus. So that's negative feedback, going away from the stimulus. It does that by sweating. It cools it back down. If you go outside and it's cold, you shiver. That shivering will heat the inside back up. In positive feedback, the change in the environment, the organism's response amplifies the signal. This is an example of what happens with childbirth and labor. One of the questions they always ask whenever a woman goes into labor, how often is she having contractions? The reason is because as those contractions take place, chemicals are being released in the body that will increase those contractions and other bodily processes to birth the baby. That is a positive feedback. One stimulus, contraction, causes more contractions to take place. It amplifies it and keeps going in the same direction. Next is called bioenergetics. So now we have an internal environment staying the same. We still have to exchange molecules and food and air and different materials in and out. And as that happens, you're going to release heat and energy. Okay? And the way your body uses that heat and that energy will determine how much of that food you need to absorb. So two different strategies, endothermic and ectothermic. In endothermic, the body is warmed by heat generated by metabolism. So as your body's doing all the things it does, it releases heat, your body is able to take that heat and use it to keep your body temperature at a constant temperature. Because of that, we have a very high energy demand. We have to consume food on a regular basis. We are also, though, able, because of that, to have sustained activity in a wide range of environments. You can go from heat to cold. You can go from dry to wet. There's various environments that you could be in, and your body will be able to survive it. And we see this in birds and mammals. Okay? So you're heated by what you eat and the metabolism of breaking that down. You have to eat a lot, but you can survive in a lot of different environments. As opposed to the ectotherms, in the ectothermic, the body is warmed by the environment, not by metabolism. This allows them to have a low energy requirement because the food they eat is strictly for energy, not for heat as well. So they don't have to eat as much, but because of that, they're incapable of intense activity over long periods of time in different environments. They may have energy to react quickly, but then they're going to have to stop after a while. They can't continue to prolong that activity. They also have to be in particular environments, okay, because of that. And we see this with fish, amphibians, reptiles, and invertebrates. Just to mention, I guess, a few there. All right, as your body is breaking down that food and that metabolism that heats it up, there's some correlations that we've noticed to metabolism and the size of the organism. The metabolic rate per grams, meaning how much has to be broken down per grams of mass of the organism, to body size, what we notice is that there is an inverse relationship here. A mouse is very small, but it has a very high energy demand. An elephant is very large, but when you compare its body size to the actual amount of metabolic rate that happens per grams, it's very low. Now, there's been some hypotheses out there that have tried to describe the reason for this, but none of them has successfully proven in all organisms. One is that because of the different sizes, the mouse is having to constantly generate more heat, as opposed to the bigger organisms that are able to hold on to that heat a little bit better. Which brings us to the last thing, what we call basal metabolic rate, or BMR. And you may have heard of your BMR before. Some people that are concerned with weight loss and stuff will look at BMR. This is the metabolic rate of an endotherm at rest with empty stomach and experiencing no stress. So you're completely calm, you're relaxed, you're at rest, and you have an empty stomach. How much metabolism has to take place in your body to keep you alive? That's the basal metabolic rate, BMR. For males, that's 1,600 to 1,800 kilocalories. For females, that's 1,300 to 1,500. A kilocalorie is a scientific measurement of the intake of energy. That equals what you would see on a package as a calorie. So if you drink a soda, it's 250 calories. That calories is actually a kilocalorie. And that's the way a lot of people will choose to eat healthier, is to make sure they stay in that, for males, close to 2,000 calorie diet. For females, in that 1,500 to 2,000 calorie diet. They're intaking enough calories to keep that basal metabolic rate up. And then as they do stress, or as they are no longer at rest, then they're burning the fat and not burning the food that they're eating, and then end up storing a bunch more fat, which is what many of us do, is we eat well more than this, and then we end up storing a lot of that energy for later.